What's up, I'm Troubleshoot. Welcome back to another video. In this quick guide, I'll be taking you through installing a vector plugin for Stable Diffusion AUTOMATIC1111's WebUI. Essentially, you can generate SVGs or vector artwork as you would any other image, be able to export it and mess around with it in Adobe Illustrator, Affinity Designer, or anything like that. It's really powerful and pretty cool. Of course, you can use ControlNet and things like you would usually. Heck, you can even convert line art and things like that you draw into SVG if you wouldn't like to use an online service to do so. Obviously, you'll need AUTOMATIC1111's Stable Diffusion WebUI installed. In the description down below, you'll find a guide for installing it on Windows and Mac. When you have it installed, simply head across to the folder that you have it. Over here in this Stable Diffusion WebUI folder here, I have mine. All we need to do is fire up WebUI user.bat, which opens our Stable Diffusion interface as you would usually. There we go. Here I have my Stable Diffusion WebUI interface. All we need to do is head across to the Extensions tab at the very top here, to Available, and click Load From, and we should see a list here. If we hit Ctrl F and search for Vector, then you'll likely not find anything, as the plugin isn't added here just yet. In the future, it probably will be, so that's why I'm telling you to look here. Assuming you find Vector Studio on that list there, you can click Install next to it. But for now, at least, it's not here. So head to Install from URL instead. In the description down below, you'll find a link to Stable Diffusion WebUI Vector Studio. This is a plugin that allows you to convert images into SVG artwork pretty much straight away. Now, previously, this was text to vector graphics, 314 stars. It was actually really popular, but it's been converted to Vector Studio, and it's been worked on a little bit more since then. We can either generate text to vector graphics and finish or edit them in the SVG editor that's built in, or of course, download it and put it somewhere else, or we can start drawing in the SVG editor, send your sketches to ControlNet, etc. It's a really powerful tool that we can do lots with, and this, of course, isn't all that we can do with it here. You can use ControlNet with your own sketches and drawings and things like that to convert them into vector art, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. In order to install it, simply click the link at the very top here, and we'll be copying it. Then, over here, URL for the extension's Git repository, paste it in here. Then we'll be copying the last part of this URL, stable-diffusion-webui-vector studio. We'll be copying it and pasting it in the local directory name here. Then click Install. Now we'll need to wait a few seconds, and you'll see it's successfully installed. Use Install tab to restart. So head to Installed, and then click Apply and Restart UI. You'll also see Stable Diffusion WebUI Vector Studio, the link, etc. here. Apply and restart. Now your UI will restart, and when it does, at the very top we'll see a new tab, Vector Studio. Also, under Scripts here, we can expand it, and we'll also find Vector Studio here on the Text to Image tab. When we select it and expand it, we have a bunch of options. We'll need to do this here in order to convert images that we generate into SVG artwork pretty much immediately. So we'll start with a prompt. On the GitHub page here, we'll find some examples of what they do. We'll go with something here. They use monochrome line art, black and white of, on a new line, a happy cute snake tune. So we'll copy this pretty much verbatim. For their steps, they have 40, 768 by 768. Sampling method is DPM++, 2M Keras, batch size of 4, and that's pretty much it. You can, of course, use the high-res fix as well to get better quality artwork, though you'll more than likely need to lower the batch size. Scrolling down, you should have Vector Studio selected as the script, have it open, and we can leave it on illustration or none, prompt only. If you click Generate Now, you'll notice that it spits out a few errors and won't actually give you SVG artwork. Looking at the console here, you'll see the error in more detail. Text to vector graphics, execution of Potrace failed, check file system permissions, installation or settings, is image saving on. What we need to do here is download and extract Potrace and place it in the correct folder. Scrolling down on this page here, you'll find a bunch of text, these images. Scrolling down further, Potrace, and dependencies, Potrace here. We're looking for this link. You'll find it in the description down below. I'll click on it to download it, and we'll have a zip file on our PC. Opening this folder here, we have all these files. What we need to do is open our folder that we have Stable Diffusion installed to, scroll up, and open the extensions folder. Then Stable Diffusion WebUI Vector Studio. Inside of here, we'll look for the bin folder. Hit Ctrl-Shift and N to make a new folder, or right-click New Folder, and type in bin. Open it, then we'll be extracting everything that we just downloaded from the Potrace zip, the Potrace folder, all of these files here into this bin section. There we go. Now you can delete the zip, and we have Potrace installed. Heading back to the Stable Diffusion tab here, clicking Generate. This time you should see that it generates without any errors. It should be happy. Obviously, it'll take a short while as we're generating 4 images all at once. You can see them here. Now, this isn't the best as there's tons of detail around these, not exactly what they were showing on the preview images. I think it's just a different model that I'm using. Regardless, you can see PNG and SVG. The SVG is what we're looking for. It's a bit burnt as is. I'm pretty sure that's just my model. The model that they're using is Coloring Book, so I'll download that, probably from Civet AI. In the description down below, you'll find a link to the Coloring Book Stable Diffusion model. I'll download the 2.4 gigabyte file here. Now, while it's downloading, you'll see this notification about downloading a config file as well. You can either click here and download the config, otherwise click config file, and it'll download a YAML file. We'll need to place this next to the model in our models folder when it's done downloading. There we go, it's now done downloading. You can see it here as a 2.5 gig file, and of course the YAML file we downloaded too. You'll need to place these in your models folder. So I'll cut these, Stable Diffusion WebUI, then models, then Stable Diffusion here, and we'll paste them in. Now, as you'll notice, it's a ckpt file, meaning that it could contain malware and things like that. Usually you download safetensor files, which are, as the name suggests, safe. They don't have any malicious code in them, or at least it'll be very difficult to do so. Checkpoint files, however, you can pretty easily hide malicious things in them. For this, I'd recommend going to the Extensions tab in Stable Diffusion, available, click Load From, then we're searching for Converter. Model Converter is the plugin that we'll want to download and install. So here it is. I'll click Install on the far right. Then we just need to wait for the install to finish. When it's done, head up to the top, installed, and you should see it here. All we need to do then is click Apply and Restart UI. I'll duplicate the tab and do it here, just so I don't lose my prompt. Alright, Model Converter at the very top here. Then, from the Model section, choose the model we're going to convert, in this case, Coloring Book. Then, Precision, leave as FP32, Pruning Methods, Disabled, Checkpoint Format, uncheck ckpt, and select Safetensors. Then, all we need to do is click Run, just like that. Now, if we have a look at the console here, you'll see it as it's working, and poof, checkpoint saved as Safetensors. Now that we've converted it to a Safetensors file, the size is still 2.5 gigs, which is great. Nothing's changed. I'll reload the checkpoints up here and select Coloring Book Safetensors. You should then see that it loads properly and happily. There we go. All we need to do now is give it a prompt. I'll copy everything we had before. Once again, script, Vector Studio, and here I'll select None Prompt Only. Generate. Now we just need to wait for this to complete. Hopefully things should work. They seem to be. And there we go. We've now generated an image and an SVG file. So here's my PNG and here's my SVG file. They look very similar, although the SVG file is a lot more detailed. Now with this, we can click Edit SVG here, which will take us across to the Vector Studio tab at the very top. Scrolling down, we can double click to select one of these lines and blocks here and move it around. For some reason, movement is mirrored. Up is down, left is left. That's just very weird. Anyways, there's an undo. Yes, there is. We can draw with a pen, draw boxes, text, etc. Pretty cool, but you probably not want to use this interface if you have professional software installed. So instead, I'll click Save here, then the Open Folder button here, open the current date, which is this one, and you can see it over here as a PNG and an SVG file. I'll open my favorite design software, Affinity Designer 2, and we'll throw it in here. So drag, drop, and for fun, I'll open the PNG as well. Here is the PNG. Now, why would we want an SVG? Well, this PNG is set in stone. This is what the image will be forever. The SVG file, however, consists of a layer, and inside of it, huge amount of curves, which is great. We can edit practically anything that you see here. If we double click one of these here to select them, once again, we're moving this around, and we can edit it as we see fit. We can adjust the corners, angles, etc. This is great. You can now selectively delete parts that you don't like, etc. It's infinitely powerful compared to what we had before. Now, is there an easier way around this? Somewhat. There are other free tools that we can use to convert images to SVG, and they work well in color. The only thing that's a drawback with Potrace is that it doesn't really support color. If we get rid of monochrome here and instead replace it with colorful, generate it once more, you'll see that we get something that's colorful instead of monochrome this time, or at least somewhat. I think it's because of black and white. Let's just try that again. Alright, there we go. There's something that's a lot more colorful. The only issue is that Potrace is black and white only. So we have a colorful picture and an SVG representation that's based off of colors using different thresholds for how bright is technically white or how dark is technically black. Anyways, you'll only want to generate monochromatic artwork or black and white artwork. There are lures and hypernetworks and things that can help you get here. Otherwise, just use a coloring book or black and white artwork style only model to begin with. That's probably what I'd recommend. We can customize some of the options here, such as generating a transparent PNG as well as a middle item here. So instead of working on the plain image, it instead removes the background, then converts it to line art. So we have PNG, it gets quantized, the background gets made transparent, and finally it gets converted into an SVG, hopefully the way that you're hoping. Anyways, there's quite a bit of control that we can get over this. I did mention alternatives. While there are technically alternatives, I'll take the image that we generated previously, this one here, and upload it to a website that converts images to vector art. Searching Adobe Image to SVG, we have Convert Your Image to an SVG for free. We can upload a photo here, then we'll simply drag and drop it into the section. It'll upload it and convert it. Assuming we have an Adobe account, we can then download the image. Obviously, there are tons of websites that can do this for you. Personally, I've just seen the best results here. I'll download it, save it, and we'll drop it into Affinity Designer. Now, the only thing that I have noticed about this is that with black and white artwork, it's not as accurate. Let's just get back to the original state. It's not as accurate as Potrace. So here's Potrace, and here's Adobe's take on it. You can see there are different colors here. There's gray, there's lighter gray, but it's not as crystal clean as Potrace. Potrace is black and white only. If I give it that colorful image that we generated instead, upload photo, you'll see this time we get a much better result with color. So this is what Adobe thinks it'll look like with color. I'll download it and drop it into Affinity Designer. There we go. Once again, it's very similar. We can adjust these as we would any other vector or SVG artwork. Pretty powerful. As long as you're generating something that's black and white that you plan to color in later, then this extension will work brilliantly for you, especially if it's not too detailed. As long as it's very cleanly black and white, this plugin works fantastically. Anyways, your mileage will vary. You can add lures, hypernetworks, and things like that to get your artwork a bit more the way that you want it to look, especially when you're using a coloring book model, for example. But that's really up to you and how you do things. It's a creative tool after all. Thank you all for watching this incredibly detailed video. My name's been Troubleshoot, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao.